Welcome to the moonlight of Emuna, Parshas Mikeitz-Channukah, Rosh Chodesh Teves. This week's learning should be a schus for Refuah Shlema for Ephraim Yitzchak ben Aviv Chaya, Chanamash Bas Vilcher, Ratz Bas Rochel, Shmuel Shem Zeh Chava, Menachem Mordechai ben Afira, Chaya Bas Tova, Ephraim ben Yafa, Michaim ben Sarah, Chom Perel Makalea Bas Chanaserel, and Lilishmas Henya Bas Yechiel Mechel. The parsha opens with the pasuk Vayhi Mikeitz-Channukah Yamim. It was at the end of 2 years to the day. Upari Cholim, and Pari had a dream. And the parsha goes on. V'hina Omed al Yar, he was standing on the river. There's a medrash. The medrash tells us the following. On the pasuk Vayhi Mikeitz-Channukah Yamim, on the words in the pasuk that it was at the end of 2 years. At the end of 2 years, the medrash points to the pasuk in Iyov. In Iyov Perek Chav Ches, pasuk Gimel, the pasuk says, Kates Sam Lachoshech. Hashem sets a boundary, a limit for darkness. V'chol tachlus hu choker, to every limit man probes. Even oifel v'tzamavis, to rocks in deepest darkness. So the Medrash connects this pasuk by Vayhi Mikeitz-Channukah Yamim. It was the end of 2 years to the pasuk in Iyov, Kates Sam Lachoshech. He sets an end to darkness, right? And the Medrash goes on and says that Hashem sets how many years the world would be in darkness. Hashem created the world, and how many years the world would be in darkness. Why? Why does He set the end to darkness? So the Medrash says, Shekol zman sheyetzahara ba'olam oifel v'tzalmabes ba'olam. As long as the Yetzahara, the evil inclination, is in the world is in darkness and the shadow of death. And again quotes this pasuk, the end of this pasuk that we just quoted from Iyov, Even oifel v'tzalmabes, rocks in deepest darkness, right? Which are also the same words as darkness and the shadow of death. So long as the Yetzirah, Hashem sets a time limit for the darkness, during which the world is in this darkness and the shadow of death. Then the Medrash goes on and says, but when the Yetzirah is uprooted from this world, so then there'll be no more darkness or the shadow of death in the world. And then the Medrash gives another explanation. Kates Sam Lachoshech, that this pasuk in Iyov is Zman Nosan LiYosef Kamashanam Yasav Afelu B'Yisurim. Hashem set an exact time how many years Yosef would be in darkness in prison. Kivan Shegia Kates, when that time came to an end, Cholam Pari Chaloim, then Pari dreamed the dream. And that's the juxtaposition of the pasuk. Vayhi Mikeitz-Channukah Yamim, when this time that Hashem set for Yosef's darkness ended, Upari Cholim, then Pari had the dream. Hashem could have brought that dream about at an earlier time, but the time wasn't set for the darkness, the veil of darkness, to be lifted. So Rav Leibler Eger in Teres Emes finds a connection with this to Chanukah. He says Parshas Mikeitz always falls Chanukah, right? Parshas Mikeitz is always Shabbos Chanukah. Sometimes Vayeshev is, depending on the year, but Mikeitz is always Shabbos Chanukah. And so he says, what's the connection? This Medrash is telling us that Yosef was set to be in darkness, just like the world is set to be in the darkness of the Yetzirah for a set amount of time. And then, when the time ends, Hashem brings lightness, gets rid of the Yetzirah, and I don't know if I just said lightness. I mean brings light and ends the darkness. So Rabbi Leibel explains as follows. He says that we know that part of our job in this world is to constantly assess where we're holding in life, to figure out what it is that we need to work on. And Hashem very often inspires in us the desire to check through our actions, to assess where we are, and to recognize that we're standing in darkness. And at that point, the person's heart, when a person recognizes that he's in darkness, he realizes, unfortunately, most people go through their lives not even realizing they're in darkness. But a person sometimes is inspired to search through his actions in life, and he discovers that he's in darkness. And at that point, he starts to daven, his heart starts to yearn for when will there be an end to this darkness. And the Medrash is telling us that Hashem always sets an end to the darkness. So once we recognize the darkness, the Medrash is giving us chizuk, is giving us strength, never to give up, right? We could feel that we've been in darkness for so long, but that really what we need to do is we have to work on ourselves, obviously, but we have to also trust that Hashem, we have to have Emuna in Hashem, betochen in Hashem, that Hashem will bring an end to this darkness. A person feels that I've tried in a certain area in my service of Hashem, I've tried so much, and I can't seem to break out of the grasp of the Yetzirah. A person has to know that he has to continue to fight. He has to continue to daven to Hashem. He has to continue to hope in Hashem, and there will be an end to his struggle. Hashem brings an end to the struggles. As the pasuk in Iyov says, Kates Sam Lachoshech. Hashem always sets an end to the darkness. The darkness is never a permanent condition. And this is true on a national level also. Klal Yisrael, we've been in Golus for many years. Chanukah is the Yom Tov of Golus. We've been in Golus for many years, and people can sometimes feel dejected and say, will this ever end? But a person has to know that he has to have betochen in Hashem that the time will come, that there is an end set, as Yaakov Avinu was going to reveal to his sons in 2 weeks Parsha, and as we know throughout Jewish history, there is an end that's set. We don't know it, and it makes it very difficult. But we can never give up hope. We have to know that Hashem sets an end, and our job, we'll see what our job is in a few minutes. But temporarily, our job, for the moment, our job is we need to continue to hope for Hashem's Yeshua, for the salvation of Hashem, until that end arrives. That Hashem said, I will bring that end. And in our individual lives, the struggles that we face in our individual lives, that is Yosef in the prison, in the Beis Hasurim. Yosef in the Beis Hasurim is all of the challenges and struggles, the darkness in a person's life. It represents the darkness that we all go through. We all go through that Beis Hasurim that Yosef went through. Because when we try to fight all the things that try to seduce us away from serving Hashem, right, and we hold back, and we strengthen ourselves, and we trust in Hashem, and we believe. Right now it feels so dark. My Yetzer Hara is driving me crazy. It throws so many things at me, and I don't know how I'm going to overcome it. That's the Beis Hasurim. That's the prison. We always see is darkness. I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's Yosef in the prison. That's each of us in our own private prison, everybody with their own challenges. But a person has to continue to trust in Hashem, like Yosef did in the prison, that we will, at some point, we will see the light, that when Hashem decides that it's enough, we will see that light, and we will see a way out of that darkness and those challenges. So Rabbi Eger connects this so beautifully to Chanukah. Aside from the obvious idea that Chanukah, below 10 tefachim, we light candles, which is light, and below 10 tefachim represents darkness. It's the lowest place, and there's light in that darkness. But he says it even more in the basic halachas of Chanukah. So we know that the mitzvah of Chanukah is to be yotzei the mitzvah of the menorah. All we have to do is light one candle each night per household, and that's enough to be yotzei the mitzvah. Then the halacha is that if one wants to do it mahadran, he wants to do it in a better way, in a grander way, in a more elegant way, in a stricter way of keeping the halacha. So what do? Then the halacha, the mahadran, is ner l'chol echad ve'echad. So let's say you have 3 people living in the house. So the basic halacha would be they light one candle all 8 nights. 8 candles is enough for them. The mahadran way is each of the 3 lights a candle each night. So now you'll have 3 each night for a total of 24, right? That is the higher level. So he says as follows. The basic level is you got to bring a little light under 10 tefachim, and that could be the basic mitzvah of one candle under 10 tefachim. If you want to do it in a mahadran way, in a better way, you want to really bring yourself out of the darkness. So every single person has to light a candle. That corresponds to a person's hope and betochen for every single individual, for every single element in one's life. We need to separate the things, and we need to infuse betochen into everything that we're going through. It's not enough at that point to say one candle is good for the household, but every single person needs to light something to bring some light into their lives. In every area of my life, I need to bring a little bit of light into my life. And then, what's the highest level of doing the Chanukah licht, which most people, unless there's a certain situation, most people do these days, is the mahadran min mahadran. The ultimate level of doing the mitzvah. What is that? So we know the mahadran min mahadran, the Gemara in Shabbos tells us, is a machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says you start on night 1 with 8 candles, and you go down 1 candle each night, till on the last night you light 1 candle. Beis Hillel, which is the way we paskin, which means is the way we need to act in this world, right? We know that Beis Hillel is the Torah of this world. Beis Shammai will be the Torah of Mashiach. But right now, when we want to look to our avodah, we pass like Beis Hillel. What is halacha? Not only do we not light 1 candle for the whole household, not only do we not just light 1 candle for each person, but we increase every night. So on night 1 we light 1, each person lights 1 candle. The next night each person lights 2 candles. So besides the previous lesson of adding light into every area of our lives, into every person in our lives, but we also keep increasing the light. Beis Hillel says we increase light. On night number 1, and let's say that house of 3 people, you're going to have 3 candles. On night number 2 you're going to have 6. Night number 3 will have 9, and so forth. And this represents a person brings a little bit of light. He recognized, as we said earlier, he did his introspection and he realized that he's in darkness. So he adds one candle. He brings a little light in. And now he feels the light of Hashem touching him. The next night he's not satisfied with the same. He still realizes that there's still darkness. He adds more light. He realizes that he's in darkness, and then he adds even more light. And the third night he has 3 candles and he wants more light. Constantly, it's not enough. He wants more and more light. He's not satisfied with having dispelled a little bit of darkness. He wants more and more light constantly coming into his life. And he increases the light. Every single night he's bringing in more and more light into his life, into the light of his family. And that's why we also light the Chanukah menorah in Eretz Yisrael outside, but even in Chutz La'aretz we light it near the entrance to the house. The idea is that we want to bring in lots and lots of light. And that's what the Medrash, and that's what Rabbi Eger is telling us, that the way a person deals with the darkness in our lives, whether it's the personal darkness or it's the national darkness, is by increasing light, bringing more light for everyone, light that's shared, light that if we have a little bit of light, right? We know the famous idea that one of the qualities of fire that's different than anything else, almost any other type of things in the physical world. If I give you some of mine, I now have less. But fire, if I touch the flame of my candle to the flame of your candle, we both have bright flames now. That's the idea of Chanukah, sharing the light with more people, spreading the light, and that's what the Medrash is telling us. That Yosef, yes, there was darkness, and there are periods of darkness in our life, but the way to fight that is by adding more light and more light and more light. And that's the connection between Mikeitz. Mikeitz was the end of the period of darkness in Yosef's life, and Hashem brought the dream of Paray. And Hashem promises that whatever darkness we're going through on a national or a personal level, there will be light there also. But what we do in the meantime is we connect to Emuna and B'tachon. We connect to doing things for other people, chesed and kindness. There's a beginning in giving tzedakah on Chanukah. The idea is to constantly increase light, and that's why we paskin like Beis Hillel, and that's why we're not satisfied with lighting one candle each night in the house on Chanukah. But everybody lights a candle, and everybody lights 2 candles the next night, and we continue to increase the light. That shows that we haven't given up. We haven't despaired. There's been no yish in our lives. We're constantly looking to bring more of Hashem's presence in our lives, more of the light of Hashem's more of the light of Hashem's light into our lives, constantly seeking more. And that's how we push away the darkness until that time that Hashem ends the darkness for us. And elsewhere, Rabbi Eger also makes the point, and this really connects it, because this Shabbos is Shabbos Mikeitz and Shabbos Chanukah, which we just connected. It's also Rosh Chodesh Tevis. So he says that the reason Rosh Chodesh Tevis always falls in the middle of Chanukah, Rosh Chodesh Tevis is always on Chanukah, is because that Teves is the day that has the short months. It's a day of Hashem's hiddenness. A month. Teves is a month of darkness. It's a winter month. It's the dead of winter. Teves is usually has the darkest days of the year, the earliest sunsets of the year. Right? It's a period of concealment, of darkness, of the lack of light, and therefore Hashem. We know Hashem always creates the cure before the disease, and therefore we enter Teves with the light of Chanukah. Teves, which usually is a month that represents darkness, we start it with the light of Chanukah. And it's also the later days of Chanukah. It says 7th, the 8th, right? The 6th, 7th, 8th days, those days of Chanukah are Rosh Chodesh Teves. That's the days that we have the most candles burning. That tells us that even though Teves seems like a dark month, and it seems like it's the concealment, right? But a person has to remember to never give up on himself. And he should, even if he's in the lowest place, he has hope. And he can add candles, and he can add light to his life, even in the darkest months, even in the darkest moments of his life. And that's why he adds over there, when he talks about Teves, he says that we don't see by any of the other karbanos or any of the other things, avodah that was done in the Beis HaMikdash, that we imitate that avodah, right? We daven for it. We don't bring a carbon and say, oh, this is a zecher for the carbon in the Beis HaMikdash. We say karbanos in the morning. We say karbanos in Tfilas Musaf, and that is reminiscent of the karbanos. But by Chanukah, we light the candles as a zecher of the menorah in the Mikdash. You know why? There was something unique about the menorah in the Mikdash. The menorah in the Mikdash didn't do anything, right? Hashem didn't need the light. The Gemara asks about the light of the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. Does Hashem need the light of the menorah? So rather, what is it telling us? It's a testimony, says the Gemara, that the Shekhinah rests with the Jewish people, right? It's a revelation of Hashem's presence in our lives. That miracle, that message of the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash, That we need some replica of in our lives. All the other karbanos we could daven and learn about the karbanos, and those will stand in place of the karbanos. But the menorah, which is the lesson that Hashem is in our lives, even in the darkest moments, wherever we are, wherever we're dealing with, even if it's the month of Teves, even if it's in the darkest period of our lives. So therefore, we have to light that candle. We have to go through the physical motions of lighting that candle to remind us that Hashem is in our lives always. So with that, we should see the end of the darkness permanently in everybody's personal lives and in Klal Yisrael's lives with the bringing of Mashiach. But in the meantime, it should come very quickly. Maybe this Shabbos will be the heralding of Mashiach. But in the meantime, we have to know that our part is to constantly reinforce this concept. When we touch the candle to light the Chanukah licht, to know that we're reminding ourselves that Hashem is in our lives and we're spreading Hashem's life and we're doing whatever we can. We're doing whatever we can to increase the light in our lives and to the revelation of the Shekhinah until Mashiach actually comes. Meher v'yameinu. Have a good Shabbos, a lichtige Chanukah, a Git Chodesh, all the best.